Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. Still in the green hoodie, still very cold. And to match the green, today we're talking about the Port Charlotte SYC01. If that would like to focus, there we go. This is a 2013 batch of Port Charlotte at 54.4% ABV, matured in Syrah wine casks, which is a first for the Port Charlotte range. Certainly with a public release. Some of you may have been lucky to try it at maybe private Bruichladdich tastings or something at the distillery. I don't know. Wine cask maturation. Something that has a fair bit of debate in the whisky industry. That debate being, with whisky spirit being so strong, once it has transferred into a wine barrel, let's use red wine as an example, can you actually taste the differences between those casks? I would say, without having them side by side, probably not, but I think the big thing is, especially with something like Port Charlotte, a very powerful peaty whiskey in general, will you taste the difference between a Syrah wine or a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Merlot or something of that ilk, or a Barolo or something like that. Many people have written articles about this online. It's not as in debate as the terroir thing, as another wine link. But anyway, feel free to debate that amongst yourselves. I don't think I've tried enough wine cask whiskey to tell you, but certainly doing it in wine cask maturation / finishing tasting within whiskey would be quite good. Anyway, the bottle that looks like something that belongs in Arnold Schwarzenegger's wash bag. This is £110 a bottle, and it's only really 4.4% stronger than the standard bottle of Port Charlotte 10, which on a good day in the UK you can pick up for below 50 quid. I think the last time I bought one, I think I must have paid about £48. But here it is in the glass. This is my second time recording this video because I've had some issues with this camera today. So apologies if things are a bit more bullet pointed than usual. Lovely body on the thing. Loads of lines, loads of oil. To be fair, a second review is probably not a bad thing because this has opened up quite a bit. The nose is full of those just big red fruit style things. Also, 2 red wine cask maturations in a row. Wolves whiskey last week, and now this Port Charlotte this week. This is like rosewater, dark chocolate, very Turkish delight feel to it, but whilst also being smoky. And then we've got those typical like raspberry, strawberry, balsamic vinegar notes are quite present here. Obviously we've got the smoke as well. Little tangs of salt and black pepper. Like a fair bit going on here, to be honest. And then you just get occasionally that whiff of like smoked bacon. Little culinary delight is this thing. But anyway, let's taste. So one thing I forgot to mention is that despite being a Port Charlotte 10 at cask strength and all this stuff, the nose is surprisingly fresh. It isn't a heavy, dark, damp, medicinal nose. There's actually quite a lot of liveliness and fruitiness to it, which was a surprise. The taste is the other way around. It starts off with that kind of that vibrant, almost like sour freshness of red fruit, strawberry and raspberry in particular, but then it really does move into some quite dark, bitter territory. Now, I'm not against bitter flavours. Flavour profiles in the world of whiskey like Angostura bitters and Aperol and Campari and things like that. A lot of vermouth, And there's something in this though that is leading me down the path of like, it's bitter, but it's also like a little bit of a kind of cloying flavour. It's almost minty and piney and bitter. It's almost like an aquavit sort of flavour profile. You also do have a little bit, now that I've said that, of like the finish has got like a warmth of rye whiskey, almost. And caraway, those flavours you would typically associate with an aquavit. The finish on this is incredibly long. I don't know when I swallowed that whiskey, but I can still taste it as I'm speaking to you. So that is not a bad thing in any way. We will add a little bit of water, and we will go back to tasting it. But I will say, despite being sent this bottle, this, much like the Wolves whiskey, this was another thing that was sent to me, I think back in October. It seems like everyone got a new PR company in October because so many brands got in touch. And I said yes to this because I knew how much it was, and I knew it wasn't something I would buy off my own back. Because Port Charlotte 10 is a similar strength. It's a lot cheaper, between 65 to 70 pounds cheaper. And I don't know if that additional cost of those wine casks is worth it. This isn't my first dram of this. You can't really see through the... Well, you can a little bit. I've maybe had... This is probably my third glass in, let's say, 4 months. And those dark bitter notes, which, if you say that on paper, I'm not normally against them, they just rub me up a little bit the wrong way in this. With water added, you get a little bit more sweetness. It turns into a little bit more of it's more like cranberry and stuff compared to strawberry or raspberry. Feels like it's got a little bit more tartness on the nose. And then to taste. Yeah, they're still there. I will say with water, the overall sensation has become sweeter, which I don't dislike. I can't quite pick up on what it is, but it's a taste running right down the middle of my tongue that I just don't like, but I cannot figure out what it is. It's like the vegetal quality of, this is weirdly specific and a little bit related to the festive area we've just come out of. The Sunday dinner, or the Christmas dinner, I should say. I don't like to steam broccoli. I prefer to like fry it or something. I think it gives it more flavour, or roast it. But the smell of like a stacked steamer pan with root vegetables in it, the taste of the smell of that steam is what this reminds me of. Like broccoli water, which might be the most unappealing 2 words you could ever use to describe whiskey. But there is just this overly herbaceous, very earthy, green nature to it, which in peated whiskey is typically normal. But I'm really not enjoying it. It tastes like an agave spirit, not necessarily tequila or mezcal, or even an agave spirit made in Mexico, any sort of agave spirit, where it's been mixed with something to make it initially quite sweet. So like sugar syrup or something. And then it becomes just really earthy, but not in a tasty way. Very one-dimensional. And I feel like I'm being overly harsh on this bottle. But I just, it just doesn't sit well with me. And I think that's the wine more than anything. There'll be people out there that love this. Fair play to you. Everything is personal. But it just doesn't tick my box in any way. And even now, there's like a really astringent, cloying sweetness that is right at the back of my tongue, which is trying to push through this steamy vegetal stuff. But it can't, and it's just sat there, and it's making me feel like a bit sugar sick. It makes me feel like I've eaten too much chocolate or something. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I think score-wise, because this video is getting a little bit long and I've talked about broccoli water, maybe once too much, I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. That is not a bad score by any means, but I think when it comes to wine cask maturation and all of the fun stuff that Bruichladdich has, I think this would be in a better format in like a miniature pack. Port Charlotte 10 Mini, Syrah cask matured, a Spanish wine maturation, a French wine maturation, something like that. But I just don't think in a full-size bottle, for me, this is something, even at a tasting, I would still taste these things. You know, in a lineup of 5 or 6 whiskies, but I can't get on board with it. It just doesn't sit right with me as a flavour. Smells wonderful, but as a flavour, it's just not for me. So we'll put that to one side. But thank you all very much for watching. A little bit of a rant there about broccoli. But I will see you all next week for a more of a return to normality. I'm not sure with what, but we've got a lot to get through. There is some weird stuff. There is some normal stuff. There is some very good priced stuff. But yes, I will see you next week. Cheers.